Thank you for viewing our Positive for Restaurant Equipment System Overview. This will be a quick tour of the features that make this product an industry standard. I like to think of it as the gold standard in point of sale and inventory control for the kitchen equipment dealers. We're going to start with the most important feature that I feel is the AutoQuote import. After you work up your project, you can import that directly into the Positive software without having to create your customer, create your vendor, or create the items. This will give you a huge amount of save time because the information is brought in electronically rather than having to hand type it in. So let's start by clicking the maintenance and selecting import. We're going to go down to import auto quotes, and I've got this set up already to do Dan's prime rib. I did this ahead of time, so it doesn't have to make my inventory items for me because they've already been created. So let's start with import. And here's a list of vendors that are on this particular project. And so what we're going to do is we're going to click continue. Since everything is green, all these vendors are linked directly to the Positive vendors on file, and also when I select continue, here it's going through and verifying that all the inventory items that were in the project are also linked to the Positive. So here's all the items that were on that particular project. So by hitting continue again, it's going to ask who my customer is, and I'm going to just say change customer, and we're going to, let's say, put it into the Cabin Club, or no, Dan's Steak and Ribs, and we'll hit continue. Now there's 130 items on this particular quote, and we'll have literally brought it in from AutoQuotes into our system in less than 2 minutes. The import is complete. So let's close this and now go to our transactions. We'll go to pending quotes. And here is my quote that was just brought in from AutoQuotes. I'm going to go ahead and click print so you can see that the import program I'm going to show the costs on this. This gives you the ability to see what the sales order would look like with all the individual items that were in your AutoQuote project. And as you can see, we've got the AutoQuote line items. We have subtotals with each line item. We have full specification. We have all the notes. Everything that was on your proposal from AutoQuotes to your customer has been brought into the Positive system. Our next step now is to convert this from a quote to an actual sales order. So by selecting convert, I can convert it to a sales order, I can convert it to my job costs, I can convert it to contract pricing. That'll lock those prices in for that customer if you're doing a rollout and you want to hold those prices for 6 months for that particular store. That could go into contract pricing. So I'm going to go ahead and put this into a sales order and click selected. And it asks me, do I want to take inventory out of my stock, or do I want to create a purchase order and have it all shipped either directly to my customer or shipped directly to me. So I'm going to say don't assign my stock. I want to leave it as it is. So now it brings everything over to a sales order screen. And you can see all the items here. And you'll notice down in the item details here in the notes, we get to make, if necessary, let's say under where it's got standard work table. If I click in this area here and I hit my Control Enter key, this will allow me to make changes in the descriptions and in the spec and in the notes in case they decide to go from a left-hand swing door to a right-hand swing. We don't have to go back to AutoQuote to make the changes there. We can change that description information right here in Positive. So if I'm completed with my sales order review, I can go ahead and click Save. And if the customer has a purchase order number that they're going to give us, we'll put that in. And it says, what date do we think we're going to be able to ship this product out? And we're thinking the 28th. So I want to apply a prepayment. Yes, I would like to get a $50,000 prepayment. And it says, how is that prepayment going to be? It's going to be on a check. This is the customer's check number that he gave me. And we can print what the order looks like, and it's just like the quote. You'll see it's just the same information, but I'm going to hide the cost this time. And it's the same, only a different title, but all the same verbiage down in the body of the sales order. Okay, so if we go over to our sales orders, here is that product, and you'll notice the red check marks. That means it's back ordered. So we want to create purchase orders for these items. So what we're going to do is we're going to say that we want to create PO. And we're not going to drop ship it. We're going to bring it in-house. So we say convert to PO. And here are all the items that are involved on that create PO. You can see, you can click and do like this, and we can see who the vendors are, what the items are. So this gives us the ability to see everything that's on that sales order is now moved over to my purchase order. And the important thing is it brings the cost that was in the project into the quote, into the sales order, into the purchase order, and into the invoice. This gives us the ability to have the correct cost linked to the correct item for that particular job or sales order. So I'm going to click Tag All, and then I'm going to click Create Purchase Orders. Okay, these are all the POs that were created for me by the sales order to purchase order import. So I'm going to go ahead and close that. Then I'm going to go over to my purchase orders under the purchasing, create POs, and here's a list, and we'll just click this filter here. Here's a list of all the POs that were for that particular project. So I'm going to do one, and then what we're going to do is I'll pause it until I get to the end so you don't have to see me do each one. But let's just start with this first one. We're going to say place edit, and here's that information, and we'll just say we want to go ahead and process this. And if I want to print the purchase order, this is what my PO is going to look like. Everything that was on the quote from AutoQuotes is now showing up on my purchase order for my vendor. They know what the line number is, so they can put that information. If it's a drop ship, they can put that number on the shipping tags so that people know where to place it in the restaurant. And any kind of special information is listed there with any kind of conditions. So that's how we go ahead and release those POs. And I'm going to go ahead and pause while I release the rest of these things, and then I'll show you how we receive them. Okay, here we are on our last release. So we'll just do another place, and you see we have an installation fee that we're not charging for. Okay, so we've now gotten everything into release, sent out to the vendors. It's now the time to start receiving those. Now once again, if I look at my filter and say show all, here are all the items. So if I look at Toastmaster, for example, and say receive, it's going to prompt me for the packing slip or the invoice number on this purchase order receiver. This helps the accounting department match packing slips with invoices that come in. So I've put that in, and then I click receive all. That then says I ordered one, I received one at this cost. So if I click that and say receive now, it lets me know, hey, I've got this that came in. Let's just look at some of these features here. Here's a cost review. I can go ahead and change my prices if the costs jumped up dramatically. What item arrived? What was my landed cost? If I want to calculate freight into this item, it will do the landed cost. Location manager wants to know where I want to put this. Am I transferring this from one warehouse to another warehouse? Do I want to print my labels, my barcode labels that will go on this particular box? We have a receiving report. If we print that, it just lets us know, hey, this thing came in for this particular item with all the kind of notes that went with it. And if there is any price changes, this will print that out. So we are complete, and we've received this order. I'm again going to pause this and receive the rest of the items. Okay, we're receiving the last item. I'm putting my invoice number in. I'm saying receive all. If I did not receive this item, this PO will be left open until that item is received. Okay, so now we've got everything received on that sales order. Again, I'm doing it as only one sales order at a time. You certainly can have multiple purchase orders in here, and also if you have a couple of vendors that are going to be selling you different products for different sales orders, and they're all going to be shipped to your warehouse, you can merge using the merge button two of the vendors' items and perhaps then qualify for free freight. So these have all been received in, and because we received these in, and oh, by the way, ever since I did the import, I never touched the keyboard. Everything was clicking a mouse, so it can't get any easier than that, because you don't have to type anything and mess up quantities or mess up prices, because everything is brought through this system from the AutoQuotes. So let's go over to accounting and let's go to AP processing. And you can see here, these are all the invoices that match that purchase order we just did. And if I did get a invoice in that the paper invoice is a different amount than the amount that was received on the PO, I have the ability to edit that invoice and say they have a different cost on this ice cream dipping cabinet. So if I click edit, instead of $32.76, I can say it's $3,400 is what the price went up to. And that will go into my inventory system because it's already sitting there with a value, and it will correct the value for that one only. Even if I had others in there, it will only select the one that was received on that PO and correct the cost. So I'm going to go ahead and hit save there, and I'm going to go ahead and select all my POs and say I've got all the invoices in now, and I'm going to post them. Okay, they've all been posted, and if I go over here, I see all my invoices here waiting to cut checks. I can cut checks for just a couple. I can just, on this one here, I can just say pay, and that will pay that amount. I can say pay all, and it'll pay all the invoices. So all the invoices are ready for payment. Then I would click process paid, and here's all my invoices that are going to be on this check run. I say process. This will print remittance advices. Besides on the check, it'll also print a hard copy on a paper. If you exceed too many invoices for the check stub, you can attach this in its place. So now it's created all my checks, and if I go to my checkbook and I look at the operations checking account and I go to print checks, here are my invoices for that batch, and I think I had a prior batch, yes, on the 12th. There were some other ones I sent over for printing. So you just tell it it's one part laser check, what's the first check number, and it will print all your laser checks for you. Okay, so let's go now back to our pending sales order. And as you can see, everything here is blue now, meaning that we do have everything in stock and nothing is back ordered. So now we can go in and say we want to convert this to an invoice. And we select invoice. Who's my commission salesperson for this invoice? Gives us a list of all the items, and if the guy calls in and says, hey, I also need something else, you have the ability to go into your purchase history, for example, and get a chance to see what items that they purchased in the past and select those, or you can just add an item right here on the fly. Set location, that gives us the ability to pull from specific warehouses. So items that are in multiple warehouses, we can pull different items. Maybe if you have a showroom items and you have extra items in the warehouse, if they take it from the showroom, your location would be showroom. Okay, if everything is good, we hit tender and we pick the serial numbers, and they're going to put it on their store account. Of course, they've received their credit limit, and we're going to allow that charge to go through without changing the credit limit. Ready to process, yes. Want to print a packing slip? No. Let's see what the invoice looks like though. And here is this invoice with all the information on it. Quite lengthy. And you'll see here we used their $50,000 deposit, and then they gave us, that's what they gave us a check for, and then this was the balance on account that still is owed. So everything has been paid in full, and this money is sitting on account, and this was a total invoice amount. So that's how the process is, from taking it from an AutoQuote project all the way through the system, invoicing it, accounts payable, paying the check, the whole bit. That's all been taken care of with almost never touching the keyboard. Now we have the need under maintenance to, if we have to change and create taxing locations, or if we have GST, PST, whatever different taxing locations need to be created here. And we do have videos on training on each of these features and how to actually utilize them. Let's go back to transactions, AR payments, and we have two types of payments. A customer payment, if they owe us money, they'll have a flag. If they're past due, they'll have a red flag. If they are current, they'll have a green flag, and we're going to select that. Here's an invoice they owe us, so I'm going to go ahead and enter a payment, and they're paying the full amount, so I can take tender. It's letting me know, okay, this is how much money I'm taking on that check, and it is a check, and okay, and here's their check number. And I can print a receipt out for them if they wish and email it, and it just shows them that they owed it and this is what they paid and everything is good, even the check number they used. The other method under taking AR payments is called batch payments. This is when you have a corporate office paying for multiple franchisees, and you have each franchisee as an individual company. All you'll do is put in the total dollar check amount from corporate, the corporate's check number, and which invoices they're paying by looking at their check stub, and it'll go out throughout the system and pay all those invoices for all those customers. Okay, and as I say, we have a job cost system where you can have multiple cost codes for your projects. We have a thing called Job Center, and this will just show you things that we've going through the system, job summaries, in process jobs, what their job orders are. That information is all able to print out on reports and on forms. We have you saw receivables, you saw payables. We have things like dashboards. Dashboards give us the ability to look at our sales. If we click here, it's got set for top sellers. If I click this, this will give me a recap of what my top sellers are, what my receivables are. If I send this back here and say I'd like to look at my receivables, total owed, and then launch. Looks like I don't have any total owed. Okay, that's fine. The other thing that's kind of nice is in our inventory, we have the ability to select what's called alternate SKUs. And these are things that people use from memory. They can either be your real part number or a part number that they just create in their mind. So if I say a T-49, this is not a real part number. If you look at SKU Manager, this is the correct part number, but I made T49 an alternate SKU. Because I have that an alternate SKU, I have a lot of notes. Here you see my product details that I pulled off the internet. Then I have my full spec that came from my AutoQuotes catalog. I also have things like under documents, I have the ability to do a video on the customer screen out in the showroom. So if you don't have it in stock, they can watch a video on how it works, and they'll be able to actually see.
Solid door reach-in refrigerator. Made with
And in some cases, they actually place orders just by watching the videos.
Make sure to leave adequate room for the cabinet's dimensions.
We can also do the parts manuals, whatever documents you want, cut sheets. We give you all the pictures, all the cut sheets when we sell you the system. Under your details, you have all your prices, and you have your primary vendors. You can have multiple vendors for the same item. So if you buy locally, this could be your manufacturer, but your primary vendor could be a local vendor. Also in detail, we have things like options, whether we're tracking stock or serial numbers, where it's going to be posted to our e-commerce sites. We have default setup where you can put your percentage commissions for these items, subcategories, sales information. This one here is total revenue that we did in 2017, total profits by month, and how many units we moved out the door. Picture manager, we can add pictures in there. If we've got any kind of promos going on where we're giving discounts for a certain date range. Price breaks, if they purchase 2, they'll pay less than if they purchase 1. Item notes we talked about. Here's our standard notes that was cut and pasted in here, and then these extended came from an automatic import from the AutoQuote catalog. Again, the multiple vendors. Item activity. What POs are currently there? How many did we receive? What our cost was? Sales history. What the invoice was and how much we sold it for. And if you have multiple stores, we have the ability to show the multiple pricing, what we have in stock at each store, and what are we sharing. Okay, so the inventory module has so much information, and as you can see here on these side panels, it'll tell you how many you have available, how many have been pre-sold, when you can sell things that you don't have in stock, but in reality it is there. So when it's received in on the PO, it nets it out against the pre-sold. You can see your pricings, your options, your user-defined fields. They're 40 characters, and you can type anything you want in there. That's just user-definable fields. That's what UDF stands for. So that inventory is kind of the hub of the system. Now, of course, we do have a full accounting system. We have our chart of accounts, and this is set up for multi-site. We have reports, which is our detailed trial balances, budget reports. Besides these reports that come with the system, we give you access to unlimited amount of other reports. Like, for example, we have an inventory valuation report that can go backwards in time and give you the inventory value from 3 months ago. Same thing with our open payables. We can go backwards in time, open receivables backwards in time. And so all this information here, when it's below designer reports, that will tell you it was one of the custom reports. We have about 234 reports that we give you for free because people have already paid for them. Here, for example, is a open sales order. And this will show you what you currently have in open sales orders, which we don't because we just took that sales order and converted it to an invoice. So I apologize for that. In our inventory reports, we have inventory valuation. This is a powerful report that a customer asked us to write because his old system had it. and he kind of became a Bible to him, so he wanted it in our system. So when you select that and go preview, you pick the date, it gives you a kind of recap of what do you have on inventory at cost, what is it at retail value, what your margins are based on that information, year-to-date cost of goods sold, beginning on hand value, things we got in, things we sold, returns that came in, and then this is based on hand value, and as you can see, this information is how much it costs, what the values are, and it goes right down the list here. So this is a kind of a report that people find very handy to have to sort of recap what's going on in their company. We also have turn reports that will tell you how much you need to purchase to refill your min-maxes, and we use seasonal min-maxes, by the way. So all these reports are going to give you a whole bunch of data that, again, we let you look at samples of all those custom reports, and you just pick the ones you want us to load on your system. And this is kind of like everything's included in this. There's no extra modules. Get your accounting, your job cost, your e-commerce, service module, work that's being done if you do service work at your location. And we also have gift cards. We have wedding registries for people that want to register at your store for wedding gifts. Marketing, we have email blasts where we send out information on special pricing or new products that perhaps Hobart has released a new product line. Anybody who bought a Hobart product in the last 6 months, they'll get one of those emails. So hopefully this kind of gives you a good enough overview. And again, I do have the training videos that you can look at more detail of each of these different modules. And I'm hoping you will consider buying our system and saving yourself tons of time. One of the things I didn't mention in our purchasing order system, on our items here, under receive purchase order, we have the ability to look at purchase orders that have information that comes from our manufacturers. So if we say update, oh, there's a problem with this one because I'm not connected. But the idea is, instead of having to call to find out where your order is, that information will show up on your purchase order screen. Data was placed, when is expected, and then down here you'll see we have the carriers, the tracking numbers. So all that information is there for you. And I don't know if that will, nope, I just don't have it linked. Okay, that's something I just forgot to touch on when we were looking at all the other features. So thanks for watching, and I hope to hear back. I'll gladly do a custom demonstration just for your needs to make sure that this system is going to have everything you need. You need an RMA system, we have return merchandise authorization tracking, so you always know where those returns went to. Thank you so much for your time.